At the moment right now, there are a large number of individuals coming into the UK health force from countries that are on the red list, such as Nigeria, Ghana, and many other countries. But the real question is, what is actually the red list? Because I didn't know what the red list was until very recently. And it is something you may be seeing pop up in news articles here and there talking about recruitment to the red list or amber list or green list. But these words are used so frequently. So let's actually explain what actually is this red list. And the first question is also, is it bad to be on the red list? And B, is your country on the red list? Let's answer these questions in today's video about this red list that you may see in the news. So let's actually explain what this red list actually is. It actually comes from a WHO recommendation that the UK actually implements as part of its guidelines into international recruitment. The long story short of it is that it's basically put in place to protect countries' healthcare forces so that they are not depleted via aggressive international recruitment. But don't take my word for it. As I always say, I always go to the government website if I want to know anything particular. So let's actually see what the government website says. As you can see here, we have the Code of Practice of International Recruitment and Social Care Personnel in England. Now, this is the official government updated 2022 in August, so it's fairly recent. Now, this is a very behemoth of a document and has a lot of steps, but we're going to just cover the most important things in this video, and then we can cover the rest later in other videos as well, okay? The first thing we want to clarify is that this is a safeguard list from 2020, and it basically cuts things down into 3 lists, okay? We have the green list, amber list, and the red list. Now, if your country is on one of these lists, it's not a bad thing. It does not mean that your country cannot have any active recruitment or you're not allowed to apply for jobs in that country. No, that's not what it means. It just means that WHO has identified your country via metrics, which we will look into another video, as at risk of aggressive international recruitment, as I said. So, as it says here clearly, countries on the WHO Health Workforce Support and Safeguards list are graded red, which means there is no active recruitment is permitted in these countries, meaning as an organization, the NHS or NHS Trust cannot actually go into these countries and start trying to recruit people within these red lists. However, if your country is on this red list, it means that you individually, for example, me, if I was in Nigeria at the moment and I was looking for a job in England, there's nothing stopping me from applying directly. However, it would be against these guidelines if there was, for example, a recruitment fair by this UK trust coming to Nigeria to actually recruit me, and then they said, okay, we're going to support you. That can happen. That's active recruitment. You can still apply for it. So it actually doesn't really matter to you if you're applying as an individual, which is what I recommend on this channel anyway. You look for it yourself, you do it via the government means by yourself. So the amber list is actually a little bit different. This just means that there is some agreement between your country and the United Kingdom that allows some level of recruitment. It's not as robust as the green, which we'll get in a minute, but that means there is some level of agreement between these 2 countries. However, this list is not very long. So let me tell you the 2 countries that are on this amber list. It is Kenya and Nepal. That's about it. So there are only 2 countries on this amber list, but I will have the red list rolling down to my right very soon as well. And so green list countries are countries that have an agreement, government to government agreement. Now there are set parameters within that agreement, which obviously this document does not go into, meaning, for example, there may be limits on how many individuals can be recruited in a year or how they can be recruited, but that's just a smaller story. But the green countries are more, the recruitment that can go on in these countries is a lot more free than basically the nothing that can happen in terms of active recruitment in the red list countries. Now, there are only about 3 countries on this, which is Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and Philippines at the moment. Now, if your country's government decides to look into having a discussion with another country and having a discussion with UK to talk and make a deal, then they might be moved either from the red list to the amber list or the amber list to the green list, depending on the parameters of that. But again, all of this doesn't really matter to an individual, but you just want to be aware of it so you don't think that if your country is on one of these lists, you cannot apply for a job in UK. You can, as long as you do it independently. Now, my thoughts on this red list, and that's more or less the video, my thoughts on this red list is it's an interesting list that I was not familiar with when I was applying for a job. That tells you how, significant this is if you are applying directly by yourself. It's not very significant because I did not know about it until very recently. So it played very little to no role in my application process, my course letters, all these things. It really didn't. But that's also, I can say, because I was an international student. So really and truly, I was never at risk, really and truly, of breaking any of these rules. But if you are from one of these countries and you see a recruiter in your country, at the end of the day, it might not affect you, but you need to ask questions about, is that recruitment that you're actually experiencing, if your country is on this red list, is it legal? Is it supposed to be happening? Because you don't want to be in any trouble or any weird spots later on. Very unlikely, but hey, this is extra information. And also particularly when I saw it on news tabs and I saw it on newspapers, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this red list? And why is Nigeria on this red list? And that's immediately prompted me to go and look into it to see. And actually, it's not a bad list particularly. Oh, also, if you have any particular things you want me to cover on this channel, let me know, pop a comment down below. We will try and get to it. I'm trying to cover different things in the news about international recruitment and national healthcare, UK healthcare system. I'm going to start covering a lot more about those type of things because there's only so much we can talk about in regards to specifically the health and social care visa. But I'll still be covering those and any new updates that come through, particularly regarding those. So take care.